something.
Well, it's finally happened. We've managed to hit upon a Jule Selbo episode of Tales from the Darkside. It's Season 1, Episode 22, Grandma's Last Wish. We have been free of Jule Selbo so far, and since I have to watch these episodes several times, I try to be positive during these reviews. I'm not the angry video game nerd, but wow, do I hate Jule Selbo's episodes of Tales from the Darkside. I'm just going to show some clips so that you can suffer with me and realize that the entire episode is like this. Jule Selbo is the funniest lady at the church bake sale. There's no reason she should be writing Tales from the Darkside episodes, or really any other type of TV series. This wouldn't be even a good Full House episode.
Is that you? Mom! Come tell me about your day at school.
Carl Rollins residence. Mom, I'm waiting for a call.
May, I didn't see any olives in the cupboard.
How primo it is to talk to Buzz! I can hear it bulldozing. It's unfair!
Greta, I told you.
You play the TV so loudly, I'm on the phone. Call Dr. Johnson. Ask him if he'll run across the street. Greta! What? Call Dr. Johnson!
Every episode she does is like this. Characters screaming at the top of their lungs, making unfunny jokes, and just making you want to hold your ears. I'm sure she grew up in a giant household with 5 brothers and 9 sisters, and they were all having a bunch of fun. But every single episode she does is like this. There's no point in even summarizing the plot in Grandma's Last Wish. There isn't a plot. None of her stories have any plots. It's just this, at constant volume. I guess the tagline summarizes the idea of the episode. This grandma wants the kids what it feels like to grow old. The producers apparently thought that they needed more comedy episodes, which they absolutely do not. They already have enough. So this is the first of her episode, but don't worry, she's going to do 9 more of these. In fact, the next episode, The False Prophet, she wrote as well. Bigelow's Last Smoke was a pretty good episode, but wow, are they ending on a low note in the first season, which is probably why a lot of people think the first season is the worst of Tales from the Darkside. I don't necessarily think that. Honestly, I think all 4 seasons are about the same, but we'll add them up at the end and see which season actually scores the highest. When it came to monsters, they all got about the same as far as the seasons, but I definitely remember thinking the second season is the best. And one of the reasons I think people don't like the first season is it just ends on such a low note. The last 3 episodes are so bad. So they basically ignore their grandma the entire time. She wants them to fix the radio, they don't do it. She talks about how their porch is kind of breaking apart, she might fall, they don't care. She even complains about trivial stuff like she wants lettuce and no one will give her lettuce, so okay. So the point being that she's old, she can't do things for herself, and her family should be helping her, but they're not. But it's not like this is a very likable grandma. She also kind of slaps their hands and gets mad at them and complains about trivial stuff. Him fixing the porch because she might fall, that makes sense. Her complaining about lettuce, not so much. So you basically dislike everyone. And this really is the fault of the script. The actors don't do a very good job, but I mean, how could they? They're supposed to be yelling at an extreme volume the entire time, and there's no jokes. It's not like they're doing a Will Ferrell where he yells, but also sometimes has jokes. They have no jokes. Jule Selbo gives them no jokes. So everyone does a bad job. The writing's terrible. And it's just the grandma complaining that they need to do more stuff for her. So the only tolerable scene is halfway through, we get this guy who brings this slideshow of a new retirement home that they're going to send grandma to, which makes complete sense. She should absolutely be in a retirement home. She can't remember anything. She's falling down. She can't hear anything. Now the actress that plays this is 59 years old. That's another weird thing about this episode. She's only a few years older than the mother. So she's supposed to be 80 or 90, but she just obviously doesn't look 80 or 90 and just puts on this fake old woman voice. I mean, for how many old characters they have in Tales from the Darkside, I don't know why they couldn't just get an actress that's 80 years old to play this role, but who knows? Just to add insult to injury, we have a person faking to be 30 years older than they really are. So she puts on the old woman voice. I can barely hear you. Oh, I can play an old woman. So the grandma wishes that her family, feels the same way she does. That they also grow old and understand the pain of barely being able to walk, not remembering things, and falling down all the time. So we get a few scenes that are not in any way, shape, or form funny or entertaining, where they just kind of fall down and forget things, and then at the end they just sort of turn old together. If anything, this does show that if you're a writer in the 80s, if you're someone who doesn't think they're good enough to write TV shows in the 80s, this is actually still true today. I've been watching 2-second horror stories, and some of those are pretty bad too. It's actually emboldening. Stephen King once said this, that reading bad books can actually empower you more than reading good books, because you go, oh, someone published this terrible book. Maybe I could do something like this. Because I assume to get a book published, you have to be really, really good. And same thing with TV scripts. I imagine breaking into TV and writing scripts would be super difficult. I would never even try to do something like that. But then you watch this and you go, oh, I could do this. Anyone could. You could too. So maybe be empowered by Grandma's Last Wish. It's getting a 1 out of 10 because it's terrible. But be empowered that you too can become a writer. Can we find a positive review? Well, we actually can. We just have to get through this mountain of negative reviews. Okay, here's the reviews for Grandma's Last Wish. 4 out of 10. How dare they? Annoying and noisy? What? Grandma's Last Wish is an episode of Tales from the Darkside expected to be funny, however it is annoying and noisy instead with an irritating family. It certainly is. 4 out of 10. Funniest episode of all. Watching this episode has me intrigued as to what my own old age will be like. I sincerely hope not, but who knows. This episode does bring it home that maybe we should be a little kinder and gentler toward aging relatives than what our society seems to think. Yeah, that does seem to be the moral of the story, but it just doesn't really work because the grandma is also annoying and loud and mean. So they're just all kind of bad. Also, the grandma should go to a retirement home. She can't do anything for herself at all. It'd be one thing if they had her like 65 years old and she could still she's like, I'm doing fine, I can still skateboard. And they're just like, nah, go to the retirement home. That's not what happens at all. She should go to the retirement home. I agree with the family. 2 out of 10. How to get on the viewer's nerves. Yeah, absolutely terrible. How dare they? Not good. Why is this such a low-rated episode? The performances here are good for what they are. Other than the grandmother, the rest of the family is over-the-top crazy, but it's for a humorous effect. This isn't a scary episode, nor is it trying to be, but it fits in the Darkside motif with its somewhat mean-spirited ending, and its quality is on par with some of the lesser but still good Darkside episodes. Yeah, it does have... Jule Selbo's episodes are usually really kid-friendly. I guess this is one of the meaner episodes, because the grandma just, turns them old. I guess that's kind of mean. Alright, next up is the last episode of Season 1. Episode 23, The False Prophet. Another one written by Jule Selbo, but this time she has a little help from Larry Fulton, who was a production designer for M. Night Shyamalan movies, like Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense. So this one's a little better. Not great, but it deals with a special astrology machine. But a little better. Remember, never go full Jule Selbo. At least give her some help, so they could smooth the landing. See you in a few days, and check out our playlist where we have all the episodes in order of Monsters, Fear Itself, and the first season of Tales from Darkside now. We have 3 more seasons to go. And I'm going to start Cowboy Bebop and Twilight Zone after I finish Fear Itself. 2025 is going to be a big year. Monetization. Cross your fingers.